You know, it always happens in an instant. A pipe bursts, the roof starts leaking, or maybe the water heater just gives up. And suddenly, your home, your business, it's the epicenter of a full-blown water invasion. It is absolutely chaotic, it's incredibly stressful, and every single minute counts. So what's actually happening when water gets where it shouldn't be? Let's dive in and really demystify this.
At first, the signs can be pretty subtle. You might just notice your baseboards looking a little puffy, kind of warped.
And then, you might see the paint on the wall starting to bubble up or even peel away.
That's usually followed by this unmistakable musty smell. You know the one. You just can't quite figure out where it's coming from. And then you get the final confirmation, that soggy, squishing feeling of a completely saturated carpet under your feet. Okay, the crisis is real.
But here's the thing. The problem isn't just the water you can see. The real damage, the unseen enemy, is what's happening behind the scenes. And as we're about to see, the clock is ticking against you, and it is ticking fast. And just look at how quickly things escalate. I mean, within minutes, porous materials like your drywall and insulation are totally soaked. Within a few hours, wood starts to swell and warp. But here's the real kicker. In just 24 to 48 hours, those aggressive mold spores that are always in the air, they wake up and they start to colonize. Any delay at this point literally transforms a simple cleanup job into a massive reconstruction project. Now, if you happen to live in Central Florida, that ticking clock sounds even louder. The whole region's unique climate and geography create this high-risk environment where water damage isn't just a possibility, oh no, it's practically an eventuality.
Let's just start with the sheer amount of water we're talking about. Central Florida gets over 50 inches of rain a year, and a lot of that comes from these intense thunderstorms that can just completely overwhelm drainage systems and expose any little vulnerability in your roof.
But it's not just the rain, right? It's this whole combination of factors you see here. You've got the high year-round humidity, which means things never really get a chance to dry out on their own. The sandy soil lets water just sit against your foundation. Then you add in aging plumbing in older homes and the constant moisture dripping from our air conditioners, and you've created a perfect feeding ground for those aggressive mold spores. It is, quite literally, a perfect storm for water intrusion. So, when you're faced with all this chaos, how do you get back in control? Well, the answer is a methodical, expert-led process that brings order and, more importantly, science to the situation.
The very first step, it's all about speed. Professionals understand that timeline we just looked at. Getting there fast, often within an hour, is absolutely crucial to stop the water from spreading and to cut down on the severity of the damage. This immediate action can literally save you tens of thousands of dollars in repairs.
And once they're on site, it's not just about setting up a few fans and calling it a day. No, they follow a proven, structured process. It all starts with a thorough assessment, finding the source and figuring out what kind of water we're dealing with. Then comes extraction, getting all that standing water out. After that, it's a strategic setup of industrial-grade drying equipment, and they're monitoring it daily with scientific instruments. And the job only ends with verification that everything is truly dry according to very specific industry standards.
And this brings us to the most critical part, the science. This is what separates a professional restoration from a simple and honestly often dangerous DIY cleanup. There is so much more going on than just making things feel dry to the touch.
So this entire professional process is governed by a set of science-based standards from an organization called the IICRC. The easiest way to think about them is like the Board of Medicine for the restoration industry. Certified pros aren't just cleaning up a mess. They're following specific, tested protocols to bring your property back to good health.
And it's so important to understand that not all water is created equal. The IICRC actually classifies it into 3 categories. Category 1 is clean water, saved from a broken supply line. Category 2, or gray water, might come from a dishwasher and has some contaminants. But Category 3, black water, well, that's from something like a sewage backup, and it's a serious health hazard that requires totally different safety gear and procedures.
And this is where you really see the night and day difference. A pro uses things like thermal imaging to find hidden moisture behind walls and moisture meters to get exact data. A DIY approach, you're just addressing what you can see on the surface. Professionals use commercial dehumidifiers to actually pull moisture out of the air. Regular household fans just spread that wet air around. The result is simple. A pro verifies that it's dry, while a DIY job risks hidden mold and long-term structural rot.
So what this really all comes down to is that professionals are basically manipulating the environment inside your home. This science, it's called psychrometrics, is all about controlling the temperature, humidity, and airflow to create a situation where the moisture is literally pulled out of the walls and floors. You can think of it like they're managing the vital signs of your property to make sure it heals correctly.
All right, so the noisy equipment is gone, things are quiet again, but the job isn't over, not by a long shot. This final phase is all about verification and making sure this problem is truly solved for good.
This is the single most important question you need to ask. Just because something feels dry to your hand, that doesn't mean it is dry. Hidden moisture trapped in subfloors or behind drywall can lead to a total disaster months down the road. Scientific verification isn't just nice to have, it's the only way to know for sure.
So, what does a properly finished job actually look like? Well, it means every single affected material meets that specific IICRC dry standard. It means an antimicrobial treatment has been applied to stop future mold growth. And, crucially, it means you get a final report with all the data, the moisture logs, the photos that prove the job was done right, and, of course, a written guarantee. Ultimately, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Water damage that isn't treated professionally and scientifically never really goes away. It just waits. It sits there, silently transforming your building materials into structural rot and creating a hidden mold factory behind your walls. The difference between a fast professional response and waiting, it isn't just about repairs, it's about the long-term health and safety of your home.